On this episode of the AVB Podcast, we are all the way out here in Shedden, Ontario at this wonderful facility, which is like a studio and wood studio, but we'll get into all of that part on a different episode. I get to sit down for the second time on this show with one of my favorite humans, Miss Ray Sid Stern. What's going on?
Yes, hello, how are you?
Good. How do you see right now? How do you see the future is really my first question.
Oh, well, I don't see anything.
It's dark.
It's kind of clayey. Anyways, we'll take those out now, but...
Those are, tell me about, fuck it, we'll start with that. This is probably the best introduction we could give the public to you.
Actually, so true.
Tell me about this.
This is like, I make like these eyeballs. I actually brought some, I'm not wearing them, but I make these like eyeball things out of clay, and then just the other day I just held them up to my eyes and I was like, oh man, these like actually look pretty cool. And then instantly I thought of back in the day when people used to wear their like glasses masks, on sticks. Yeah. And then I was like, why do people do that back then? They must be breaking them all the time, and they were probably really hard to make way back in the...
Well, no, they did it because they hadn't invented the ear things yet.
But you would think that like if they invented the stick, they would have been like around the ears, but it's funny to think that then they weren't like connecting like, oh, we can make this attached to our heads.
Well, this is really left field, but like the history of optical devices for human beings, like it started out as like monocles and stuff, right? Because you had to do two lenses and they were long pieces. So they gradually went down because you couldn't just like hang those over your ears. Yeah. So these, like, it's natural for us to think about it like, obviously it's, this is perfect. Right. But where they were coming from was like, how do you take this telescope essentially and get it in front of your face in a comfortable way? And the stick thing was one of the first ways to do it.
Smart. But then I'm like, where did they store it?
Yeah,
they were like just carried it everywhere because you can't like put it in your pocket or I guess maybe like your breast pocket or something.
Well, that was like pocket watch days and shit too, right? So like people were kind of accustomed to sort of like having like those like everything like was an accessory
gadget all the time,
right? That's funny, but it is a great introduction to you because like. I think I said this the last time you were on the show, and I know I just said this to you yesterday when we were hanging out and stuff, but like, you're one of the only people, and you're one of a very small group of people that the second I saw you, I was just like immediately drawn in, like I had to know what the hell was happening there, because you're like, as a musician and as an artist, and I know we covered this a little bit before, but like you're so fucking dynamic on stage. Like you're just all performance and presence, and that just fascinated me right from minute one. And I guess maybe the one question after 5 hours of talking yesterday.
I knew we would be reliving it all.
Well, the nice thing is I wouldn't shut the fuck up yesterday, so we didn't give you a chance to say anything. Of course, much love now.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, but I want to know that performance-y part of you. Like, I know you were kind of like an outgoing kid and that sort of thing, but like the performance thing and that being like a thing to do and like a thing to make your life through. How did that start setting into your head?
Right, definitely exposure to really cool artists at a young age. Okay. That's got to be where it started, but then I think a natural passion was just, I'm an entertainer personality. I've done like the tests online and all that stuff, and it makes so much sense to me. Like when I read it, I'm like, oh God, this is super definitely who I am. And I was kind of always performing naturally as a kid, and like I would do this thing where I would pull my like pants up really, really high over my thing, and my parents would like make me do it. They'd like be like, dance, monkey dance in front of like other people would come over. They'd be like, do the old man thing, and I'd just be like, it was like this thing where I did this. That's right. What it was. And like they died of laughter, and I just thought didn't think it was that crazy. But so I was like performing to their friends and to different people doing that, and I always credit the Rocky Horror Picture Show as like one of my earliest, biggest influences.
How old were you when you found that?
I was like 3 or 4. I was far too young.
Oh yeah.
And I just talked to someone the other day, and they were like, Rocky Horror Picture Show? No, my son's 10. He's not ready for that. I was like, I knew every word to Return to Transylvania or whatever, one of the later ones where they have like the transit beam and stuff. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, totally watch it. Right. Almost everyone's seen it. It's so amazing.
I almost wonder because like you're far too young at that point to understand any of the sexuality stuff that's included.
No, and maybe it messed me up a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty adult sexuality and like levels of it. And when I watched it later, I was like, oh dang. But I really loved I loved Columbia. She was like the tap dancer who was like, so those were the things I really liked
Cyndi
about
Lauper in the movie.
That was Cyndi Lauper?
I believe so.
Whoa.
Is it not?
I can't say yes or no.
Oh,
I mean, I can, but I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
It seemed like Tim Curry was like the big name, and then
Meatloaf is in that too.
If that was the case.
What's
I
that?
think. I don't think it was.
This is a long time music, and I never saw that connection or heard that connection.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
So I'm gonna guess no.
Oh yeah, probably not. Yeah,
But
she's very Cyndi Lauper-like.
Yeah.
At the very
Her
least.
voice and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you fascinated with her of all the characters?
I think I liked her sparkly sequin thing. Like I always
Okay.
wanted to be her for Halloween. I never actually have been her for Halloween yet, but like I remember for years I was like, I'm gonna be Columbia and stuff. But I loved the movie and I loved the music. And my parents actually had the record, like the vinyl record. So I spent tons of time listening to their records in the basement, dancing to like those songs. I think there was a few of my favorite records were like Sweet, like Fox on the Run. Like I really loved that. And also Welcome to My Nightmare by Alice Cooper. So I loved music. Yeah, so it's no wonder. And then Bowie. So it's no wonder, like I'm thinking now, I'm just like, oh man, like I've really come to where I am performance-wise and like pretty honestly in that those were who spoke to me at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
Like it was, when you're young and you hear things, you're so much more pure and able to be guided by just your free heart instead of like who's showing it to you, and none of that shit matters. You're just like, I love this, and I was really lucky because my dad was a huge music collector. Like he used to lock himself in his room and listen to music back when he was young, and so I don't know if he danced and stuff, but that was what I always did. But it's really awesome, and I'm so grateful for it. But he would like make me sit down, and they'd like have drinks and close the door and turn the lights on, and just be like. He would make me read every lyric to albums, like to the point where I was just like, I want to go to bed. Like this, I was like 10 and 11 years old, or even younger, like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then I got into really crappy music for a while.
Like what?
Britney Spears and Aqua and crap like that.
And you dove into that though.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I want pictures.
Yeah.
I know there are
My room was painted pink for a little while, and I had like braces. It was hilarious, yeah.
So
I forget about that.
But I mean, truth be told, when you talk about like Britney Spears and that kind of thing, it makes sense too, because like that's exactly what Britney Spears and that stuff is. It's that like that theater that's just right for teenage girls kind of thing.
I don't know if it's right. It seems pretty messed up in retrospect.
I mean, it's just in the right like teenage girls identify it is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's just right to capture them kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that you fell down that, but it's I love that you came from a background of like Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about your like. Did you like talk to me because those albums are dark.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
You're right. That's all like and my music, it has like definitely darkness tone, whether it be in the lyrics. I mean, the song I'm gonna play today is like a fun ass, just fun song. But like on my new album and like some of my other songs, I haven't put out much of that stuff yet, but it's all coming together right now. And for anyone who knows kind of like what I've been putting out, I just have a really wide spectrum of expression,
right.
And kind of that's how I see kind of what the universe featuring Ray is and what I am is like, because I was kind of trying to figure it out. I'm like, people have like kind of their story or their image or their understanding, or people want to know what my name is, and I'm kind of like, what is it? Trying to figure it out. And then I realized like, or even like a genre, like nail down a genre. And it's like, that is really hard for me because it's like, I call it like a rainbow spectrum of expression, and it's like who I am. It's all these different flavors and different colors of who I am, and that brings me tons of joy because in my universe, I'm can't settle on something. Like I wouldn't be happy just playing folk music. Like I have to try all these different personas within myself.
Well, that's your entire fucking life.
Right.
Your entire, and I mean now, and I hope it's not getting too personal, but no, you are at a different level. Like I would just, for the audience, so that they know, we're crashing at your play. You've been kind enough to allow George and I to crash at your house, and like you walk into that, and I think George said it best yesterday. Like the entire place is just, it's an explosion of art. Like it's just it's creativity and we were talking about this last night. Creativity and chaos kind of all over the place. But like that's just kind of who you are, and it's so refreshing like to walk into because you don't see people like that.
Yeah. And I almost was like, do I have to call this something or figure out what this is? But like, it truly is just like anything and everything all at once. That's what I love, like the wildness of anything, you know, like I love to explore those different sides and, you know.
You, kind of to take it back, last night when we were talking, we talked about your history in a little more detail than we had before. And because we're sort of talking about, you know, the darkness of Alice Cooper and that stuff, and the fact that some of your music does have that darkness, your history has some, and you don't like live in it or wallow in it at all, but you grew up with a lot of chaos around you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit so that there's some context?
Yeah, totally. Like kind of, you know, grew up in I was actually raised in Hamilton for a few years I don't remember. I was very young, and then I moved to a small town at like 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it's kind of hard to fit in a really small town. Like it's a town of like 4,000 people going from like Hamilton to there, and I was just really young, so.
And you're an outsider no matter what happens anyway.
For sure,
right?
Like everyone's related to everybody.
Yeah.
Like I always used to wish I grew up in the town so that I could get a job from my cousin or something, because everyone was all getting hooked up all the time. Anyways, but yeah, like definitely had some adversities as far as like having a mental illness in my family and being exposed to that at a young age. And then I think another aspect of that was when I was young, like my mom filled me in, probably I would say when I was too young, as to what her traumas were. So that kind of like, to me, added a level of like deep compassion, because like I really love this woman so much, and I now know everything she's been through. And so her pain and the shit that flows down from her extremely challenging life, since she was a kid, like it made me understand why she was hurting me or hurting us, you know what I mean? And it wasn't constant, but it was like, you know, it could get really intense. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of like not being able to go to sleep if you wanted to. And I actually have a song on my new record called Rattling Up My Cage that's kind of like about that. And what it's about is that like, yeah, I'm going through all this pain, but like I know that you've gone through worse pain.
Right.
And I'm so much better off. You know, I know that I didn't have to deal with what she's dealt with, or like, you know, like sexual abuse and stuff like that. Like, oh, thank God that I'm so blessed that I haven't had to deal with that, you know.
Right.
And that's just a robbing of a life. And so it's close to me. A lot of my family's gone through that, and I feel like a lot of people over a certain age, and even still today, you know what I mean? But
even more than that, it forced you into, just from the conversation we had yesterday, it forced you into a role where you were the parent.
Yeah.
In a lot of circumstances, and that's that like that puts a requirement on a kid that a kid doesn't know how to deal with, right?
For sure, but I also felt like a very wise young person in a lot of ways. Like I at least felt that way, and maybe that was because my reflection back was parents that were listening to me as if I had knowledge that they were seeking.
Right.
You know, like
because that was the fascinating part of the stuff that we talked about yesterday, is that you would describe conversations with your parents where like your parents would be like, okay, tell us what to do.
Yeah, and they wouldn't say that, but it'd come to a point where they just had nothing.
Yeah.
And I was just like in there being like, I can solve this, you know, like, and they would say to me, they'd both just be like, at the end of it, like, you should be a mediator and stuff. Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm naturally born into the job, but you know, there's a lot of kids who would have just had a lot harder time with a lot of that stuff. And you know what? Everything kind of co-creates together in its way. We fit into these roles the way we do. You know, if I step out as mediator, all of a sudden they have to deal with their problems themselves. All of a sudden, maybe everything changes for the better, you know, but we end up relying on each other and co-creating this dysfunction, you know. And I always laugh because we were in this nice area of town. Like, it was a nice, well-off, you know, Regent Street. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I would always think, like, we'd be up and there'd be yelling out the windows and just psychotic stuff, psychotic episodes. And I would just think to my head, like, man, people are like, oh, the Stearns, they live down, you know, Regent Street. And like, just to think, you know, from the outside of these houses, what's really going on.
And it exploded that much that, like, if I was living across the street, every once in a while I would see what was going on? Kind of thing?
People in town for sure know my family.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh yeah. Whether it was, well, then once I hit high school, we like would have young people over and be party time. It wasn't like always just a big party house. It was such a good. That was the thing, is like bipolar disorders. Very polarizing, you know, and when you have someone who's so good, I was so lucky, and that's, I think, why I am who I am today, is that it's almost like, you know, adversity strengthens you, you know? So when it comes to like people that are like intense or it's hard or they have pain and stuff, like I have a lot to give to that. I can handle that stuff, but I also got a lot of love. I was so loved. Like me and my mom were like soulmates. So when things were good, it was like one of the most beautiful relationships people can have with a relative, like a parent.
Right.
And so it was just so special that I feel like it allowed me to survive that stuff and come out okay on the other side. Not to say I didn't have a lot of hardship after, and you know, it definitely expressed itself in bad ways before now, you know.
Right.
But I kind of have this analogy where like when things are good, you just enjoy them while you can, because you're not going to spend the time focused on what bad happened when you just get those fucking good moments and you're like, and I feel like it's like you go up, you're like drowning, the storm's happening, you're like just being thrown around, and then it settles and the water goes still and you just go up and you stick your lips up and you just sip as much air as you can, which is like sipping air, you know? And it's just to hold it in and keep you afloat for the next little bit.
Right.
Because it was kind of like that. It was like you never knew what you were kind of going into. It was chaotic.
Yeah.
It wasn't stable. Yeah.
It almost seems to me like the beauty that you're talking about, like the good side of it, because your mom and your dad had the issues that they had and the stuff that they were dealing with. It almost seems like when the good times were happening, because they weren't sort of like locked into that, you know, parent-child role even themselves, that the good part could be good, because like one of the things you always want as a kid is to be closer with your parents and to be able to connect with them like as human beings. And a lot of times being a parent, because you set up these boundaries, you don't get to have those moments that you would want to have. And because those boundaries were eliminated for you, you could kind of have that moment, which was great. But then all the other shit was like, you know.
Yeah. And I felt so grateful for that. I felt like, oh my God, I can be understood. I can be, and I was understood, and I was loved, and I was appreciated. And you know, I got to like go downstairs and listen to wicked music. Like I'm such a lucky person. And like, so I'm kind of happy I had some shit to go through, you know, and it's the type of shit that causes like deep compassion for pain and understanding for all different walks of life, because you just realize that like these crazy ass people that are like yelling in the streets and they don't know where the hell they are, man, like they've been abused, they've been hurt, and I just like, I always just want to hug those people and just, I'm like, oh man, you know, like I've been worried that my mom would end up on the street like that before, you know, but she's so much more well now, and it makes me really happy.
That's great.
Yeah, it is good. Like things can get better. And, you know.
Did you ever, because she dealt with the mental illnesses that she dealt with, and because you, for a lack of better term, and I'm using it colloquially, but because you're fucking crazy, did you ever worry about it? Like, did you ever go like, is this what I'm going to turn into?
Oh, hell yeah. Especially when I was like, deep into drugs and alcohol. I just thought like, oh man, like I never felt those feelings in my own head, but I just thought like, I definitely had fears about that. I know that stuff can run in the family and things like that. And I feel like the way that, you know, I've found a lot of peace and got more well myself is just through knowledge and stuff, through understanding how the mind works. And then you can understand yourself better and not be as susceptible to like really messed up thoughts and stuff like that, you know. But I've always been pretty like, you know, it's only when like alcohol, it's a depressant, that things, I think everyone ends up feeling kind of shitty with alcohol at a certain point, and so that's kind of like the only thing that's really kind of brought me into like some weird headspaces.
Because you started with that stuff pretty young, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely was one. You know what? Music, I think, is the reason why I wanted to do drugs so bad. Music and movies. It was like they glorified that shit so much. Or like Pink Floyd, I was like, I have to do acid. Like the moment I can get my hands on it. So I was like grade 8 and 9, like trying to find stuff like that. And drugs were like my hobby for sure.
Talk to me about that, because you basically, it was more than a hobby. It was almost your lifestyle through all high school, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I didn't drink alcohol in like grade 9. Actually, I wanted to tell this story because I think it's pretty good. But when I was like grade, it might have been like 4 or 5. So obviously I had a hard time fitting in, and then this one pivotal moment in my life happened, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was just a fucked up kid trying to fit in. And the one day at lunch hour, me and 5 other kids got brought in by the teacher to get a talking to. And basically the teacher said, one of the students went home today. It was his birthday, and you guys made him feel so shitty that he went home and puked, and it was his birthday. And that was the moment that I realized, like, what I do can affect people.
Right.
So much so that it can make them ill. And I just cried, and I felt so horrible, and I went home, and I cried to my mom, and I wrote like a poem about it. And anyway, so that was the moment where I was just like, oh my God, and I just felt so
You were in
horrible.
grade 5, you said?
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6 or something
Right.
like that. And so, kids can be fucked up at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. I was
Right.
like, yay, I'm getting last energy, just trying to be accepted in some way, shape, or form. I would, of course, pick the kid who's got some sort of issues that they have no control over. And
Right.
so I'm super ashamed of that. I mean, I've come to terms with it. And then so flash forward to grade 9, I had been, smoking weed in grade 9, kind of experimenting with that. And then someone had E, and so ecstasy. So I did my first ecstasy pill, and I went home, and I kind of knew that I'd be able to tell my mom, chat with her or something like that, which is another, great thing to be able to do when you're experimenting, not have to be scared,
Right.
and run in the other direction.
Especially with
Home.
psychedelics and shit.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm a big maps
Right.
I'm a big maps advocate and stuff. But anyway, so she wasn't home, which was weird. She was always normally home. And then so I was like, oh shit. So I went down to the basement mirror where I was dancing in front of, and I just didn't think anything of it, but I just started talking to myself. And I literally therapied my ass. I looked at myself and I was like, you hurt this person and you did this because of this. And I just went through all of these things, and I repented in front of the mirror. It was another pivotal moment in my life. I'm shaking because I'm cold, but yeah, it was it totally changed me. And I literally I don't know whether it was that week or the next day, but I went and I knocked on the doors of anyone who I'd hurt, and I apologized to them, went inside that particular guy who went home that day. I became a good friend of his, and I
Had you not talked to him? Because you said you went home and wrote a poem and stuff, and did it not occur to you to turn around and talk to the kid? Or not occur, it's difficult, especially as a kid, but you didn't do it then?
No, I didn't. We apologized because we were supposed to and
have
should,
to,
and I
yeah.
felt bad and all that stuff. I don't think I ever read him the poem or anything.
But you didn't tell him that it had sort of affected you as well, kind of
It
thing?
wasn't like it was this time. This was a word, it's different now. And
Gotcha.
So, yeah. And then it kind of became my mission to just, find someone who's, maybe not having a good time, and just, befriend them. Just befriend anyone I could, or anyone who was not having a good time or felt bad. And
That can get dangerous, though, too.
It worked out really well for me.
Yeah?
I was in a really small town. And
Oh,
so,
fair
I got to
enough.
be friends with a lot of different people. And
Okay. Do you still do that when you're out and about, though?
Yeah, it depends. I find I love being out by myself, because then I feel more free to do that. When I'm with people, it's easier to just do what's up,
Right.
but and not just run off and do something. But
Yeah.
no, but if there's some kids on the street in Toronto, I'll stop in the liquor store, grab a beer, sit down with them and chat and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just people are awesome. Might be
Yeah.
mission, but,
Do you go exploring for people like that?
yeah, I'll ask someone up and be like, hey, and sometimes they're like, but yeah.
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 Tell me about some of the people that you've met along the way. Tell me about some of the people that have kind of inspired you, as you're moving forward. That, maybe you didn't connect with for long periods or whatever, but that you kind of took a piece of.
That's a good one. People that I've taken a piece of, because I've definitely done it in my life. Obviously the people you're surrounded with. But I don't know.
Tough one.
Shit, yeah.
All right, I stumped it.
I prepared all these things today, man.
What did you prepare? What was it that you were? What did you come in here wanting to talk about?
Just kind of a bit of who I am and where I've come from and what it means to me, I guess. I just think that people get really hurt, in life, and without a way to deal with it, they just spew pain, and with the stuff with my life and my family, I felt the tough part about it was that when you know where someone's come from, and you're kind of like dealing with two different people. You're like dealing with this person that you love, and you're dealing with this person that you hate, and is maybe possessed by a demon. Right. You know what I mean? Like you're just like this. Like we'd be like, that's not her. You know, like so it's so crazy how the mind can get so ill that it develops these other methods of like being in order to survive, in order to not just like kill yourself. You know what I mean? And that's another thing I've dealt with a lot in life. It's not my own personal choice to kill myself, but everybody wants to fucking kill themselves, man. Like so many people that I know, it's so crazy. And it's like you see on TV, it's like it's an epidemic and stuff, and it's like, man, like that's like the symptom of all this other shit that's just sucking, you know, the energy and the life and the love out of stuff, you know. But yeah, like a couple months ago, it was like good friend telling me that, relative telling me that, another relative telling me that, you know, like my family members who've tried. And
but just call out of the blue, or like how does it, like, because I mean I know you're one of those personalities and those spirits that people are drawn to
or want to, you know, get deep with. Like I get deep pretty quick with people, and then they might feel comfortable to do that, or also when someone's in that kind of pain, I am more apt to like, you know, be in contact and stuff. But it's just, you know, alcohol I think is a big factor in that stuff.
That's so. I'm kind of fascinated with, because like we've talked a few of the stories or whatever, but like everybody's got their like high school druggie stories. You took that shit to like a professional level.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Talk to me about that.
Okay, definitely. Great boots, by the way. Thank you. Just gonna pop them off. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so, you know, started with the E-pill, and that day I made so many older friends in high school. It was great. I went back and I was like, I'm friends with grade 12s now, and like, it was awesome. And so I made a little bit of a habit of that because, man, you know, you go to the well, you make some new friends, and you're like, cool, and it's like, sweet, I'll do that again, And man, I was in a small town where like we had nothing else to do. Like we really had nothing else to do but get high in a basement or something like that. And so yeah, then, you know, you go from that to then like cocaine. And so I didn't drink at that time. I was like, I'm not a drinker, probably because of where I came from, and I saw what alcohol could do. Right. And I was like, I'm going to be an alcoholic, so I better not. So
instead I'll take all these other drugs.
Yeah, instead I'll do coke, and then I can keep a level head, go to these parties, and everyone was doing it too. Right. Like everybody, and you know, there was like the party people, and they all did it. So anyways, you know, got addicted to that pretty deeply, and you know,
what does that look like? What does Ray strung out on cocaine look like?
Well, I'm one of these users that some people are just like, throw it down and do a straw. No, I'm like, I'm going to save a little bit for tomorrow and a little bit for the next day. And I'm like, some people are like that. Some people are like, not now.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh yeah, it's like because all my friends are just like, let's get strung out, and I'm just like, let's get kind of high, and then
right, because tomorrow's gonna come too, motherfucker.
And I don't want to be all like, so it was just like wanting to be high all the time, every day, like loving the sneak. I love the sneak, you know. I love the going to like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. You go to school, you do a shot of whiskey, and you fucking set up a line and do a line. And there was so much of it in my school. I went in there once, and there was already a line there.
Holy shit.
How do you, residue.
Oh, I was going to say, how do you set up a line and walk out on it?
Yeah, no coke user does that.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, like did that, and then so once that kind of like phased out, oxys got popular, right? Oxys came into the picture. And they were being, you know, my mom got in a car accident, so she had them, and everybody did. We all know what happened with oxys. Like, it was...
They were everywhere.
Everywhere, man. It was crazy. I was addicted to them for 5 years. It was like... Oh man, the addiction is a crazy thing when you're physically addicted, like heroin or something, or the hippie heroin. It's just like it's like go to work to make money to buy drugs, to be able to go to work to make money to buy drugs. It's the sick cycle of like, you know,
I don't think that's much different than buying a house.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, what do you choose to fucking like make your focus of what your thing? Because now I've got this house that I don't want to spend in. Like, you buy a house, so you've got a house.
To a house.
Yeah, and now I've got to go to work to pay for this house. But when I'm at the house, I don't like. There's all these things I want to do, but I can't do because I got to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is like the cycle of shit. At least it provides shelter.
Yeah, You know? Not a lot of shelter under cocaine.
Yeah, no,
or
definitely
whatever.
just coldness.
Yeah. Talk to me about that experience, because that's not. How old were you when you started doing oxys and shit?
Probably like 17, 18, like pretty well my whole Peace Leeches career, I was like high, and like I feel like every album I recorded, I would like set out to like not be high, and then like I'd be high, you know, and I'd be like, wow, this is really great. Imagine how I could record this album if I wasn't addicted to drugs and focused on just like, you know, like how fully in can you be with your heart if there's a little part of you that's like focused on this other thing. It's like a monkey on your back. And stuff, right? So the oxys were pretty hardcore. Oh, get this. So this is funny. There was I'm like, man, who's gonna see this? But oh well, we'll figure it out. There's this guy, everyone in my town knew too. There was a guy who was at this convenience store beside the high school selling oxys to the kids.
Okay.
So I'd go in and I'd have to have an extra like $2 to buy a Starburst, but then still $40 to get like a 40 or 220s or something like that, pills. So you'd do the little thing, you'd wait around, you kind of do that, and then I had this other job too, where there was an ATM in the building, and so I'd have it set up where I'd like have my money sitting in the ATM, and he'd walk in and we chat it up, and he'd pretend to use the ATM, take it, and put pills in there.
Right.
And then like a customer would come in, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, don't use the ATM, don't use the ATM." And it never, you know, nothing too bad ever happened. I loved the sneak though, man. I would be so good at it, you know.
It became like a puzzle solving thing for you.
It became like I'm part of this little secret thing that I can focus on, and it can use up part of this energy.
It's funny because, and I don't have any experience with this, but it almost seems to me like when you drive down the street and you see one of the kids or adults, whatever, strung out, kind of losing it, and then you've got some of the other people that hang out in the area. A lot of those folks do exactly that. They find little puzzles to fucking solve that are sitting right in front of them that are just like, this is what I'm going to occupy my time and my mind with, right? It's really interesting. Is that part of the drug, do you think?
It's part of it definitely fuels some sick darkness of.
What's the highlight for that stuff?
For what? Oh,
with oxys.
Oxys? Oh. Most people just get really sick and puke and stuff, but
because like the one time I had a Percocet, I was given one Percocet. I told you about this. Like when I had my gastric bypass surgery, I was given one Percocet. It kept me in the fucking hospital for an extra day. Like it was like I can't imagine like that being the thing. Like I need more of that.
Right.
So
the first bunch of times I did it, I like got super sick and felt like shit and had to lay down. But for some reason, I kept doing it. I don't know. Everyone was kind of doing it, I guess, and there was like the odd times where it was like a really nice buzz and.
Were you just trying to fucking like peace out essentially? Like were you just trying to like get away from stuff with it?
Maybe there was some escapism.
Yeah.
You know, there probably was definitely some of that, and also escapism due to probably some boredom in such a small town. Because like I said, a lot of kids were doing that.
Right.
And the fact that it kind of came around. I think the very first time I did one, I like took one of my mom's because I had some sort of pain or something, and then I had like the best night, and I was like, it was just some Pavlov shit. You just keep going back and being like, ooh, can I get another one? You start taking some, and then so that's how it goes. But then so from oxys, you know, that's a thing I detoxed off of so many times, you know, just going through the emotions of that and then doing it again and then having to detox again and yada, yada, yada. And I'm glad I never like had to go to rehab, or like maybe I should have, and then I would have saved myself 3 years of my life, you know?
Right.
But no, I never surrendered.
Do you look back on those 3 years? Like, do you look back on them like for anything, whether it's wasted time or as like experience or?
I have before, because I really, and I don't do that anymore, but with the Peace Leeches, we had such an awesome thing going, such a great momentum, and like a lot of just, with very little effort, we got so much exposure. And I guess it was a different time in music or whatever, but our music traveled. Like, it was like made it to Russia, it made it to all these places that like, I never intended it for it to go. And
was the Peace Leeches a collaborative thing, or was that mostly you bringing your music in with other people?
I was writing with Corey, my bandmate. It was just me and him.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he had like a crazy pedal board, and like he played guitar and bass, so he'd loop some bass and then pick up guitar, and then I played keys and did some drum machine stuff and wrote the lyrics and was like the songwriter.
Because it's funny, especially in Windsor, whenever I start talking about you, I'll go, because I had no knowledge of you from Peace Leeches. I found you when you were in what's the name?
Grown Up Avengers.
Yeah. When I talk to people, I'll go, yeah, you know, there's this chick Ray, she's a crazy artist, crazy good, you got to see her, and they'll be like, oh, she sounds familiar, and I'm like, what's that band she was in? Oh yeah, Peace Leeches, and everybody every time, oh my God, yeah,
Windsor, man.
Yeah.
Windsor, freaking like we were huge in Windsor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We played Detroit too and stuff, and we'd like always sell the fog out and pack it in there because the live show was wicked. Like I painted eyeballs under my eyes and I like pipe cleanered my hair and just body paint everywhere and it was just like fun psychedelic dance, good times kind of stuff. It's a great album, Mike. You should check it out.
I will definitely check it out. It's so funny because you bring up the eyeballs again, and I mean this is another one of those things we talked about, but it's so amazing to me that like you fall like dead on to the exact same thing that the residents were doing, and you have no idea who the fucking residents are. Like that's incredible.
So many of the things that I do, people are like, "Oh, that's this thing," and I'm like, "Man, damn it!" Like I always think I'm original, and then I find out like, no, someone did these exact same things.
just a hack like everyone else.
Yeah, I just gotta keep reinventing stuff.
But that's the thing. The thing is that you're not a hack because you're not going in and finding this stuff and then just copying it. You're coming to it on your own, which is even more interesting to me that with decades of separation, because the residents were the 70s.
Yeah, they're pretty seemingly underground-ish. Like I never surprised me.
Very avant-garde. They were like very like the high-end New York frou-frous would like be super into the residents kind of thing, right?
That,
And it was like George, you're aware of the residents, right?
It's were post-punk. They were more fun scene than they were frou-frou scene. And maybe after.
Oh yeah, maybe after. Yeah.
It would be cool.
But they were always avant-garde punk.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So like to me that's always like the frou-frou kind of, and I mean even frou-frou, yeah.
I think it's
maybe.
It's my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's not my opinion.
I love your opinion. Fuck off.
But but they were like this avant-garde and a little bit underground, but I mean as underground as punk rock goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it kind of like it's kind of cool that their music makes sense to the type of shit that I do.
But that's what I mean. Like it's so on the fucking nose. Like it's very much if with even just a little bit of recognition of it, like as soon as I see like the eyeball stuff that you're creating, all of that, and that's been around you for a long time. Right?
Yeah, for sure. It was like painting those eyeballs under my eyes, kind of. That's when it became my thing. And then now with more art creation and stuff. I mean, they're a great go-to. A lot of people do it. I personally love them. Like these eyeballs that I make, I call them the eyes of past lives.
Okay.
So they're just like all these like, who knows whose eyes they are? You know what I mean? They could be, anybody's eyes.
Right.
But they stare at you, and it's just cool to be watched. And also that's all we do is like when I look at your face, I'm not just like beard.
Right.
And speak to your beard, it's like eyes, man. Like
it took me a long time to be able to look somebody in the eye when I talked to them. I used to until I was probably 17 or 18. I used to look people directly in the mouth.
No way. Was it just safer that way? It was just like less.
I don't know.
I always wonder.
Right in the mouth.
People look at the weird part of my face, and I'm like, okay.
No, I used to. No, like when I'd have a conversation, like I'm doing it right now, so that you can kind of see what the other side of it. But when I talk to you, I would talk to you like this.
It really looks like you're looking at my eyes.
Does it? I'm staring straight at your fucking teeth.
Wow.
And that's how I would talk to people.
Right.
That's how.
You're back in the eyes now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a like very subtle, almost undetectable difference.
But my ability to be able to engage with you and understand anything about you changes completely with that subtle element. Right. Because when I'm talking to people like this and see them in the mouth, right? All I'm doing is talking at you and talking at the thing that makes noise at your face. Yeah. When I'm looking at your eyes, I can actually see who the fuck I'm talking to.
Yeah, and I can see sometimes subtle changes in eyes where they like focus in a way where it's like, and actually there's this dude that does I follow on YouTube who does basically body language whatever it's called, like analysis for UFC fighters and like interviews and all that stuff. And like, oh man, I've learned so much from him because he talks about so many things, and that's a really good sport to do that with.
Yeah.
Like face-offs, like all these things, the way you talk and how you do and where you look, and that if you look up to the right, you're in your projected mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're looking down, you're in your like kind of denying something or lying. They say if you look down to the left, you're lying and stuff, and that's super interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like reading people.
Sure.
Like that would just suck. I hope I never get
I
that.
do it constantly. That's all I do.
I mean, I guess pattern recognition stuff. Yeah.
No, it's all I do, and I mean it came from poker, right? Like that's when you're playing, that's kind of what you do. Like online is a different ballgame. That's just math. But like I much prefer playing poker at a table. I'm much better at a table playing poker than I am online, because at a table I can see you and I can tell way more.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And everywhere I go, every time I meet somebody, it's all I fucking do.
It's second nature, eh?
And I mean, you said second nature, but what I heard was sickening, and both are correct. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it like that. Like I would hate to do that. Like like I fucking hate it too, and have no idea how to.
It's almost kind of like a superpower in some way, though, in that like if people aren't like aware of it, you know more about what they're putting off than what they realize they're putting off.
At the risk of fucking exposing some shit, because we're talking about it on camera. Like that's exactly what these conversations are. Right? It's kind of like, all right, let's see what I can learn. And like that's when I ask people about their childhood. Like we didn't start this one out that way. But most of the interviews that I do, I start asking about the house people grew up in, because you tell me 3 or 4 kind of like major details about your childhood, I pretty much center target where you're coming from on anything else you tell me. Yeah, because I kind of get your base, right?
Yeah, that's so true. I feel the same way too when you hear that from someone that's kind of like, oh, you know. Changes. It's kind of funny how that can change like your perspective so much too. 100%. You know, like, and it's what speaks to you based off of what your childhood and how they created you. So right. You know, like may have more like sympathy for certain things or certain reservations about stuff. Not that I'm saying like that's what happens, but you know that doesn't.
It's when you were a kid growing up with mom and dad and all the chaos and stuff. Were you introspective about what was happening to you, or were you just trying to sort of like float around and deal with what was happening?
Definitely, like I said, going up for sips when you can and just trying to like survive it, you know what I mean? And not survive it, like don't die, like just like trying to like go to school, you know, and trying to like get through another day and stuff like that. So it was, and I've always been I'm not naturally introspective. Only recently did I realize I'm like extremely extroverted and that I need introversion in order to like just be okay and not seek bad things for myself because I'm so outside of myself. Like I need time to be inside.
I have no idea what that, like I can't, like everything even George said it on the way, like, hey, you talk about yourself a lot. Yeah, I do. It's kind of all I fucking do. And it's, I don't know, to me, I couldn't imagine, I don't know what the human mind does if it's not paying attention to itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like, my entire life is...
Sounds like a fun mystery.
Right. But it's like, my entire life is seeing what I'm, like having this conversation. And immediately, as we're having this conversation, what I'm doing is analyzing everything you're saying and sort of like trying to put it into a place. Right. And that's just what I do all the fucking time. And it seems to me like you don't do that at all.
No.
I don't. Then what the fuck do you do with all of your time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get how that works mentally. Right. Like, I don't know what that picture looks like.
Right. I feel like, I will say though that like for you to even know yourself, to be able to talk about yourself, is like, I mean, show some level of introspection, which we all obviously have sometimes and stuff, but, and even like, I'm not even talking meditation, I mean, just like hanging out by myself where I'm like able to like hear what my thoughts are sometimes and not even just, which I guess is kind of like meditation, but, I found that that's really helped me a lot, but I think I'm pretty naturally present, you know what I mean? Like I always, actually like my friend, like a lot of the people I knew growing up, my mom and Nazi and all kinds of people would like think a lot, and I'd just be like, what a curse, that must suck. Like you are always thinking about shit, and like it's like affecting you in a way that's like troublesome in a way. Right. It's a bit of a struggle or a challenge, or you're thinking too much, and I'm just like, man, I'm so happy I'm not like that. And then like a couple years ago, I realized that my memory is like really shit, and my like retaining isn't that great. And so again, everything, blessing and a curse. You know, there's like the gain and the loss of whatever. Everything has that balance, you know what I mean? So yeah, sure, I want to remember more, but I also don't want to remember so much that like it's part of this mental conversation that I have to deal with or something.
I think I might have just figured it out. I think I might have just put it together. So yeah,
I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah. No, it's because it's this idea of the especially with artists, the thing that I tend to find through these conversations and the bits of research that I've done. The thing with artists that kind of separates them from the non-artists, whatever that fucking means, it's a whole other thing. But like the kind of thing that separates them usually is their ability to let go of the detail. Like from research that I've read or listened to, kind of like the higher, it's a weird mixed metaphor, but like the higher viewpoint that you can get on a topic, the broader the sort of like circle of what you're talking about that you can understand, the details stop mattering at that point. Like this generality is true here, here, and here, and don't worry about the details where this switches a little bit and that's different. Like people are very much like that, and when you look at topics like that, you get really good at sort of like the perspective thing. Like you don't get hung up on the minutia, where most people spend a lot of time paying attention to those little details. And I think with you, maybe growing up in a house that had that chaos, the details couldn't be important because the details were gonna fucking change. It wasn't going to be the same. Like you weren't gonna have breakfast tomorrow morning, or you weren't gonna wake up at this time and go to bed at whatever. So you had to sort of be like, all right, what's going on? Like kind of head on a swivel sort of thing.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and I totally like can identify with that for sure. And I feel like they say the devil's in the details, and I think that's kind of what they're saying.
Maybe, yeah. That's brilliant. I'd never even thought about it that way, but yeah, you're right.
Because I don't even know if that means like the bad stuff is in the details, but when you get down to that, it can take away from the broader perspective, which is like the more peaceful perspective, or the more like. It's the easier perspective, but yeah, I can totally see that. And I feel like when I create, like some people, and I see artists that the details are like what makes their art. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's way foreign to me, where it's like they've like decided on things and they've like figured things out, and it's like being done in this like in this like methodical way and shit. Yeah, and it's like really great and detailed. And for me, it's just like I have to like move around things and like see it again and like kind of like let it simmer for a bit and then like touch some stuff and then things kind of come together, and not think about it too much. I kind of find the more I do, the more it can do exactly what you're saying, which is it can take away from the bigger picture, which is like just the creating this fucking thing.
The other thing that I find fascinating about you two is your artwork, because. And I gotta be careful because I'm gonna phrase this initially in a way that's going to sound like a negative, and I don't mean it like that. But you do really childish work.
Oh my god, you said that last night, and I was just like.
No. But what I mean,
But I also love it because I am childish in my heart.
That's what I mean. Like it's playful. It's not like this serious art.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like this is I've created. It is what can I fuck around with now?
Yeah, that's exactly.
You know what I mean? And you come up, but that being said, and this is where I have to sort of take this. The artwork has a childish exterior to it, but like you really fucking work at this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like you really like this thing's got like. Pieces of cardboard and little bits of this, that, and the other. Yeah. Like
it takes some mental like processes to figure out how to structurize it and make it like a certain weight and all that stuff too. So it's not just like glue and shit to like ship, which is kind of mostly that, but arts and crafts, right? But,
but like how did like when I know people that get, like, when I say childish stuff too, and again, I hope this doesn't come off insulting, because I really don't mean it like that, because I love your stuff to so much, but like, when you're sitting and playing with that, when artists or whatever start in that stuff, they move really quickly away from it to other stuff and go find their other things so that they don't identify with that like kid thing.
Right.
And I wonder how much intention in that is, like, do you intentionally work in a way that is very like sort of like that way, or is it just the shit you do?
It's just what I do, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, and I can see kind of the thread through a lot of my stuff. It's like, that's the thing, is I think my will to be an artist is more stronger than my talent as an artist. And so I'll just take stuff and be like, I'm gonna make this into something.
Right.
And that's so like inspiring, I hope anyways, and it's inspiring to me to be like, because I've always made like structural stuff, because I can't paint very well, and like, I mean I could, I'll take some classes and stuff, but it's not, I don't want to do that right now.
Right.
And I've messed around with that stuff and made some half-assed decent things, but I just see so much better stuff out there. But this is like a place where I can be comfortable, and I always paper mache as a kid, and it's cool to think that you can create something that's like, that you can hold, that's tangible, that can be anything. So you can sculpt anything out of anything.
Right.
And now I'm like collecting freaking every lid off of everything I've ever used, so I can like start making even crazier stuff. And so it's kind of like, it's easy enough, and I love bright colors, so it is truly just an expression of my soul.
And that was my question. Like, do you go in and walk into it as like, wow, it got really bright?
Yeah.
Did the sun change the lighting? Like, are we all blown out and shit?
No.
Okay.
No, it's good. It's really good.
All right, cool. Do you go in and like with like a piece in mind? Like, do you go in like, I'm going to create a piece that looks like this, and then you start bringing it together, or do you just kind of go like, all right, what do I have?
Yeah, it's super like sniffing around, kind of like intuitive. Like, there's definitely a base idea. Like, for instance, the eyeball. The thing was like, okay, I want my name on stage, but I don't want a freaking banner. I don't want something that's been like anything I've seen before.
Right.
What can it be? And then I was just like, ooh, a post. And then I thought, like, cool, something that's just like erected in the middle of the stage and I can put anywhere. And then it was kind of like trying to figure out how I could weigh it down, what it would be. And I thought, of course, an eyeball. And so like underneath that is like a plastic pumpkin from like Halloween, like, kind of thing that you put your candy in or whatever. And so anyways, yeah, that's kind of how that went about. And then my art backpack came from, and I was telling you, was like, I was going to Canadian Music Week, and I was like, dude, there's all kinds of like big wig eyeballs there. So let's put something in front of it that's really crazy. And like, why the hell not, you know? Because it's hard to get your name, and like your name everywhere, you know? So anyways, so yeah, I just like started making that. It was gonna be something else at first, and then Ozzy saw like these surfboard, like boogie boards, and that's really lightweight, so now I'm using that for a few other different things. And it's nice to be able to have free arms still that you can wear. It's a walking advertisement,
Right.
is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, take every opportunity to get yourself out there and to show what you have to do. So not only does this say my name, but this is like my brand. Boom, done.
Right.
You know, and it worked out really well for me. Like, I made some good connections because of it.
Right.
Literally because of it. To me, that's like alchemy. You know, you can just take these bits and baubles and who's its and what's its and glue them all together, and
It almost feels like the Sneak, doesn't it?
You're good. Yeah, man, it's definitely my little thing.
Because you get to go home and went, I fucking got him.
Yeah, it is. It's like, then you catch something. It's like, I'm working on another one right now. I don't know when this is coming out, so I'm not going to say what it is yet.
Okay.
But it's an experiment. It's an intentional experiment to see what a large elaborate piece of art can get me. What kind of a ticket?
Oh, is this the one you showed me yesterday?
Yeah,
We won't talk about it, but yeah.
So it's not only like a self-portrait piece, but it's also like a, where can this take me?
That's amazing.
It's gonna take me places. I know it. I already know.
Yeah, the fuck it will. Right.
Wicked.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, thanks, man.
I can't wait. We get to get a performance video out of you for sure. But that's going to be coming up towards the end of the week, folks. Thank you for hanging out this episode of the AVB Podcast with my amazing guest, Rayson Stern. You can check out the links below to find out more stuff from her. She's got some incredible music on YouTube, and she's all over the place and fantastic. While you're down there, also check out the links for our sponsors and, of course, our links as well. And, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can find out when we get this stuff out to you. More videos over on the side, check those as well, and we will see you next time. That'll do it for this episode of the AVB Podcast. Don't forget you can subscribe to our full audio episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find your audio podcasts. The full episodes, highlights, and our live off-the-floor performance videos can be found at our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the AVB Podcast. Of course, you'll find links to our incredible sponsors and this week's guest in the description below. The AVB Podcast is part of the Border City Network. Find more great content at bordercitynetwork.com. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.